JB, welcome to the show, man. How are you?
Good, man. Good to be here. Excited.
Well, the timing's perfect because I am going through I guarantee you, you and I are going to have a lot in common with regard to systems and processes and trying to optimize the best we can for highest production, energy management, that sort of thing. That's why when your team reached out to me and I saw your background and what you were up to, and then researching, especially your morning program and then your overall tools and systems that you've developed over the years, I was like, all right, I got to talk to JB. This is right in my wheelhouse. And so I'm so glad to have you. So I guess let's just start real quick. I mean, your PhD, your coach, you've got all this, you've got just a wealth of knowledge on the topic of productivity enhancement and optimization. Give this audience a flavor. The elevator pitch of who JB is and how did you become so? Go for it, man.
Well, I think it's great. Thank you. And I'm glad to be here. It's exciting and it's definitely in my wheelhouse. And I think where it came from was, in my second grade, I got put in the third and fourth grade split class.
Yeah.
And I actually got held back. I actually flunked that. And they used to call me a retard. They used to beat me up and stuff. And that has served me so well. I know that word's, kind of a tough word, but I was never great in school. Like it was tough. Like I got a report card that I found, which has got C's and D's on it. Didn't get into Indiana University. Actually got into Purdue, which was crazy. I don't even know how they let me in, but ended up flunking out of that. So I had to figure things out as I got into aerospace. Like I had to do things differently because I wasn't the straight A student. I got held back in third grade. I was a decent athlete in school, but I just didn't have the skills. Like I wasn't the person that you would think would be successful. And so I had to build a system. Like it was, they say we write the books for ourselves. I had to build a system to figure out how to make this damn thing work, how to make life work when you're not the straight A student, when you don't have the golden spoon. Both my parents are blue collar from Indiana. How do you do this without the network, without the grades, without everything? And so it all came down to a system, and that's what I've built.
Fantastic. And that's one of the things I think we all struggle with. When I said the timing is perfect, I'm going back and, I've done everything from Greg McKeown's work on essentialism to Cal Newport looking at deep work.
I love
Is
that.
it
Yep. Great.
Da- David Clark? Is that who wrote Getting Things Done, the GTD method?
David Allen.
David Allen.
David
David
Allen.
Allen. There you go.
Yeah.
So I mean, man, if it's out there, I've looked at it to try to always incorporate my systems with theirs. And I want to just start. You can go anywhere you want to with this, but what I would like to do is if you're imagine that avatar entrepreneur out there that right now we're all suffering with, I say suffer, it's a good suffer, actually, in my opinion, JB. But those of us who are entrepreneurs, we have information overload. There's more information
Yep.
available ever than
Yep.
anything you could possibly think of. Opportunity. I look back whenever I bought my first business at 28. And in a lot of ways, I'll tell people, I don't think I could ever do that today. I think it'd be too hard. But then I kind of, as I've taken more of a macro look at it, I think, no, I probably just wouldn't do that business. It was an old line real estate company I bought. Now there's just so many other opportunities, less risky, less investment. There's never been a greater time to be an entrepreneur, a solopreneur. With all of the opportunity, you get decision fatigue, you get analysis paralysis, fill in the cliche, the buzzword, you get it. So, what I would like for you to do is just kind of talk about how you started. You mentioned, and you kind of applied these principles to yourself. You knew you needed a system if you were going to get things done. How have you taken that, and how can you apply it to the entrepreneurs listening to this that are going through that right now? It's like I have, especially if you've seen some success. You're going to have
Yeah.
opportunities just flow to you. You don't have to
The more
ask them to,
successful you are, the more opportunities you're gonna have. That's
right.
that's
So
the biggest issue.
so so
Yeah.
so take that from however you want to figure out how can we um, start to make some systems that actually take all this, distill it down to the most essential, most actionable items, and incorporate it into our everyday life, health, business, relationship. How do you do that?
I love it. So a couple things first, and you hit some things right on it. So the two major things I think most entrepreneurs and professional people have, and that I work with professional golfers, one's working the masters, to entrepreneurs. That's typically who I work with. The person that can't get off the sofa, That's not my person. I'm not here to motivate. That's the last thing I want to do. But what we're trying to do is we're trying to reduce cognitive load, right? And decision fatigue. Those are the main things. Like really successful people are getting bombarded, as you said, with information, but we're also having mental issues, like cognitive load issues. Like there's only so much we can do. Kahneman in Thinking Fast and Slow really talks about system one and system two thinking. It's just a beautiful book. I bring it into my book a lot because the framework's perfect. And entrepreneurs, typically, we're trying to get in system two, but there's only so much glycogen, right? There's only so that's actually you need to actually have physicality, like your body has to be working to use that system two thinking. So a lot of it breaks down to simplifying. So my first book 10 years ago was Sacred Six that I wrote for Hay House, and that came from Earl Nightingale. So this is
Oh,
really old
yeah,
school stuff.
yeah.
Yeah, Lead the Field, the first album ever. I was probably I'm 57, gonna be 57, 56. So I was probably 30 when I listened to this on the sofa. And he talked about this story about 6 things. And it was an Ivy League going to Carnegie back when the steel mills were working. And he said, "Hey, I've got a technique that can make you more productive." And so Carnegie's like, "I need more knowing." Not I don't need more knowing. I need more doing. As anybody that runs a business knows, you know what I mean? We need more knowing. We don't need people giving us ideas. We have that already.
Right.
We need more doing. Well, he said, "I want you to write 6 things down. Start on number one, move to number two." And this is like 1910. So no computers, no cell phones, right? Move to number three, as you go, progress, prioritize those things. And that's it. And if you get to that day, you move the other ones the next day and do that. So Carnegie had literally implemented this system. And I'm hearing this as a young man, in aerospace at 30 years old or 29, going, wow, what a wonderful system. So Carnegie implemented that. He says that's why the steel mills grew to where they did, and they literally put that across the management, everything. And he wrote Ivy Lee a check for $25,000 back then when he showed back up. True story. So I heard this. I'm like, man, I'm going to start this in my life. So that was the start of my system when I was 30. And so it's grown now to a complete life system that's evolved to a cascade of mission, vision, values, goals, projects, tasks. But why we build all that is to reduce cognitive decision making fatigue and cognitive issues by getting clear and being able to say no to certain things. So our mission is not a corporate BS mission. It's what are you going to do over 12 months? And our vision is who you're going to become, which we've implemented the last couple of years, which I really like. 2 years ago, I decided to become a runner, and I said, "Well, I'm going to qualify for the Boston Marathon." That was my vision. I wanted to become a and I did it. Failed the first marathon, did it the second marathon. So when you're a high performance person like yourself and people that are obviously watching or listening to this, it's really about analyzing what is going to make the best lifestyle choices, not business choices, the best lifestyle choices, honing those in and then building a cascade of activities that you're going to do so you don't go off track. That's the system
All
in a
right.
nutshell.
I love it. And another reason why the timing of this is so great is I just came out of an EOS. Are you familiar with EOS?
Yep.
I'm sure you
Totally. Yep.
are, right? Okay. So I just came out of and it was just the initial session. I'm the co-founder of a startup right now, and one of the things and I'm this CEO, and so I told my business partners as we launch this business, I want to do this. I'm 51 now. You're 50, you're about to be 57. I'm
Right. That's same. Yeah. We're in that same
right.
group. Yep.
So when you're younger, you just kind of go at it and you learn as you go.
Yep.
But what you realize as you get older is you can short circuit a lot of this if you put these tools and systems in place up front. So we looked at EOS, and one of the things that we're trying to do with this startup is, again, you have all these opportunities. You can chase this vertical, this sales channel, this sales channel. You've got new rebranding. It's a startup that I started about a couple of years ago that we're basically going through an entire recapitalization, relaunch. So there's all sorts of places where you can start. One of the things that I personally have the biggest struggle with, JB, and I guarantee you there's somebody out there listening, the same thing is like just knowing what are all those things that you say no to say yes to that one thing to start that first step towards getting the mission accomplished. How do you tactically distill it down into that thing that is the one that you say? And also, before you even get into that, I do think, and before we even got on, I said, man, I really want you to double click on that incredibly powerful, only 2-letter word, no. It's so
Yep.
friggin' important for success. I'm learning it the older I get. So, how do you start to evaluate saying no, 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 no on this, to find that? hell yes that Derek Sivers, if it's not a hell yes, a hell no. How do you find your hell yes? This is where we're making the charge up the hill, and this is the first step toward that charge. How do you start to do that?
Couple things. One is success leaves clues. So, right. So, doing your research and analysis of what other people are doing. It's interesting in business is, they put a Kmart next to the Walmart for a reason. A lot of times people say, well, I've got this brand new thing that nobody else is doing. That always scares me personally, because I want to see that success. Not that it won't work, but we got to make sure. So, I'm a data guy. Like, I'm a data guy. I do love AI. I love Claude. I love GPT. I use them all, and I do love feeding data. The problem is that if you allow AI to do the thinking for you, that's where you run into real problems, right? So the data analysis is great. The thinking process that so many entrepreneurs are allowing it to do is the problem. It will break. It's not meant for that, but you can do a lot of data analysis. So when you're looking at things, I'll give you a quick example. So about 6 months ago, that's probably about 8 months ago, I got an opportunity, $100 million. Like, I'm a Jack Welch guy. That's where I got a lot of knowledge. I'm from aerospace, Six Sigma. I've got a belt system. Like, I was big into Jack
I
Welch,
came up
right?
through Six
So,
Sigma too. As a matter of fact, real
y-
quick, so
yeah,
when Jack didn't hire Bob Nardelli to be the successor at GE, and he went to Home Depot, Ken Langone and the board recruited him to go to Home Depot. I was one of the guys that Nardelli brought in. He put a class of us to come in and start to try to transform Home Depot. And so that was my first taste of Six Sigma. So buy it like a little bank shot there, man. We've got some connection there.
I
So,
love it. I love it. Well, I mean, it's been a big influence on me. I'm trying to bring that into personal development, right? That's what I'm doing. I'm bringing Six Sigma kind of quality standards into personal development.
makes
That's
sense.
what Morning Coach is. That's the system I'm
Love it.
doing. And so I had a company come to me, one of the big, I won't mention their name. We're still in negotiations, but they said, we have 120,000 employees. JB, you can bring your system in. You have to quit what you're doing. We want your IP, and it'll be $1,000 per employee per year. That's $100 million business. So you want to talk about me and my wife sitting up at night? Our objective, we don't have kids, so we're very blessed that you can have kids. That's a blessing. Not to have kids is a blessing, right? There's a couple there, and we're saving animals. So all of our wealth is going to animals. That's our objective. I want to have a statue next to the St. Francis in a no-kill shelter in Colombia, where somebody 100 years goes, "Who's that guy?" And it's a guy that gave all the money for this. But going back to this, so they came to me with this offer. I mean, it's life-changing money. I mean, $100 million, my business would be a $1 billion company after 10 years, $100 million every year. But my life would have just totally changed. And so I looked at my mission, my vision, the stuff that we've built over the past 20 years, the things we do. And I said no.
Wow.
And it was really hard, but my decision was based on lifestyle. So now if you're talking about corporate and business entrepreneurial ideas, I think it's based on data. I think if it's life-changing information, you need to base it on what your lifestyle is really about. So there's a couple different angles there in what we're talking about. So I think data is always the answer. I really believe in really dialing in the data. Testing is what's going to lead you to the answer. But when it comes to lifestyle stuff, you got to really question, why am I doing what I'm doing? Because I think lifestyle is first. I think that's a really important concept. And then business is kind of secondary, but data driven from business, if that makes sense.
It makes a lot of sense. All right, so can we talk about that a little bit? Because I think a lot of people I'll give you a great example, man. So I live in a very nice neighborhood, and I have one of the smallest houses within this neighborhood. And the reason why is because I used to have the big house around the corner. My the girl's mom and I split up, and I wanted to be close to my daughter. So I bought in this other section of my development that is smaller townhomes. It's kind of like the retirement community of the middle of this place. And then, but most everyone else, my age and everything, they have these massive houses and all this stuff. They have
Yep.
the cars. I was driving over to Highland Park in Dallas the other day, and I counted 7 Range Rovers as I pulled in before I even really got into the parking lot. I'm like, and that's not me. I drive a '99 LX 470, which I think is way more killer. The old Land Rover. Excuse me, Land Cruiser body style. I'm old school. I'm like, you can't just go replicate that. I want the. So I'm like you. It's like, to me, I have a very deliberate filter for how I spend my money, and the way and my wife's the same way. We keep a small footprint. It also keeps us free to do a lot of the stuff we really want to do. I think a lot of people listening to this have never really evaluated what systems they could put in place to keep to and what they like about their life right now. What are the things they really love? What
Yep.
are the things that they could totally shed, but are putting shackles on their ankles every single day? And so let's stick with that for a little bit. I would love to just, kind of tackle that about how do you start to evaluate what is really most important in your life? And JB, that can be what questions do you ask? That can be how much time does it
Yeah.
take? How do you start to evaluate that so that you can make that ballsy decision you made to say, $100 million is nice, $1 billion valuation in 10 years, that be or 5 years, 10 years, whatever is great, but it impacts the thing that matters most to me. How do you scale that? How do you make that so that people start to figure out the answers to those really critical questions to then realize maybe I don't need all that I thought I needed. Maybe I don't need all that money. Maybe I've got everything I need. Just get rid of the crap that's superfluous. How do you start to go through that process?
I love it. Well, first of all, I tell people this all the time, like, especially from stage. It's like people will spend years of their life and thousands, sometimes hundreds of $1,000s on their wedding. And that's literally a one-day event, right? And
By
it
the way, JB, you have no idea, dude. It kind of hurt me. I'm doing it right
yeah,
now, April 18th.
and I'm cool, and,
My
like,
first
I'm a
daughter gets
romantic.
married. It's
Yeah.
and I'm the thing is, I can already tell you every single thing you're about to say, I'm in full agreement with, so you can imagine my life right now as I go through this wedding. And Rylan, if you listen to this, she won't listen to her dad's podcast, but Rylan, I love you, baby. It's gonna be the most magical day of your life. I'm making sure of that. But oh my gosh, it's so
Yeah, well, and I'm not against it. Like, I'm
yeah,
not spend that same amount of time on your life.
yeah,
Like, just spend a little time and money on your life. Like, look, I'm an MBA, did PhD. Like, I went through that. I spent like almost $65,000 on my MBA, and that was crazy. Sorry about that. I'm downstairs here, and and I spent all this money on my MBA, right? But that traditional education took me to a point, and it's the non-traditional education that's really helped me. People that watch your show, getting coaching, going to masterminds, those things is what's really has really changed my life. So step one is, you gotta expose yourself to other people and other things, other coaching, other types of people. Because what happens is what's really going on is it's an identity issue. Right. We start to take an identity into these things. Believe me, I was in Parkland Golf Country Club, did very similar thing. I actually jumped on the HOA board because we bought the golf course and I wanted to help make sure we got truant in there and everything else. And I lived in a townhouse where we had $5 to $8 million homes in there because I also live in Colombia. I live in South America. So I'm in there and trying to help all this out. And so many people had their identity in their cars, in their houses, and they just weren't happy. You could see it, like you could feel it, like it just wasn't fun. And they hate me because I'm always happy. Like I'm just living life and whatever happens, I don't care. But I think those are the things. I think step one is you got to invest in different resources than traditional means. Like you got to hear different things, like listen to your show, my stuff, whoever's, I don't care, Wayne Dyer, all those people help me, right? So get a different view on what life really means. And then look at what's important to you. And it's funny if you get older, you start to see that family's important, that these are the things that really matter. It's not so much the business growth. Yeah, we all want to exit and have money, but I can tell you a lot of my friends, I can tell you on the golf course, I have a lot of friends that have more money than they could even imagine with, and they're just not happy people. I can tell you. So I think you got to invest in the right education to find that. And one of the things we do is the 7 Ps. And the first step we start with is perspective every morning. Perspective is so critical. I go to Colombia, I'm building a place in Palomino, Colombia, 3,000 people on the ocean, 14,500 is a mountain, no running sewer, no septic, dirt roads. Normal people would die being there. And to me, I'm in heaven because everybody's happy. Nobody cares about anything that's going on politically. Nobody cares about anything. They're just having fun and living their life. And so, not that you have to give up the caring, but you got to find that enthusiasm and that passion for living and getting up and having the right perspective. And I think here, specifically in the United States, we've really lost a lot of that. It makes me sad because we have so much and you just got to wake up and enjoy it. So sorry to be long winded there, but I'm passionate about that.
No, you're talking my language, and a lot of it started for me the same way. So I always thought I would get a PhD. I stopped at the MBA for a lot of the revelations that you kind of unpacked right there. And when I got into business school and realized, and by the way, man, I told you about my first business when I was 28, and it was to escape corporate America. It was all about lifestyle. It was all about coming back to East Texas, I was living in Houston at the time. I wanted to be back in a smaller community. Tyler, we have 100,000 people here. I want to be just plugged into the community, plugged into my church, plugged into, just, and have my daughters grow up in the type of environment that I grew up in. And then I still needed, I was the first member of my family to go to college, which was a small state school, Stephen F. Austin State University in Nacogdoches, Texas, the oldest town in Texas. That no, but it's not a marquee school. And so I needed that validation with an MBA from a top
Yep.
tier business school like SMU, which is where I ended up going. And I loved it. I mean, and I love SMU. But one of the things I realized quickly after JB was that that's why I was doing is the validation. I was falling into the matrix of this credential obsessed uh,
Yep.
society in which we live. And then, the reason I started this podcast, and it's so funny because you just nailed on so many things that I go through every day. A lot of people, whenever, the people closest to you that know you up close, they will, I'm kind of the weirdos. Like, you're a business guy and you have a podcast, and why? You want to be Joe Rogan? Hell no, I don't want to be Joe Rogan. I don't want to be Tim Ferriss. Those guys have way too much pressure on them. I do this because the reason why I'm meeting you right now is this little show. I could not have this conversation with you, JB, but for this show. And so I'm going to learn, and you and I'm not a transactional guy. I will know you from
Yeah.
now on. And I start finding treasure in those things and being a producer rather than a consumer. And these things that you're talking about, man, they make so much sense to me. And it's almost one of my missions in life, especially for my children. You'll appreciate this. So I've got two daughters. Rylan is the oldest that's getting married. She went to the University of Alabama. And then and her sister Abby is only 15 months younger than her. So they went really close. But there was enough window there, and I lived enough life to kind of see what was happening in higher education. I told Abby, and kind of again, the AI boom that I knew was coming, having been an entrepreneur for all these years. Um, I told Abby, I said, I tell you what, I said, I know you want to go to school. I said, but what if we take that money and I'll back you in a business instead? You can become an
Good.
entrepreneur. And she didn't take me up on it. She said, Dad, I appreciate that. That'd be great, but I really want to go to school. And so she went to University of Colorado, and I can't blame her for, Boulder's pretty sweet. I enjoyed visiting
Beautiful.
her.
Yeah. Colorado's
It
awesome.
was awesome.
Yeah.
But, those are the things, man, that I am learning the older I get, that it's experiences. It's about learning. It's about feeding your brain, feeding your mind. I can tell, you're a healthy guy. That's to me, that's the closest thing I have to a hobby is my personal health and wellness and trying to slow down the aging clock, not for vanity reasons. I mean, yeah, I want to look good, but more than anything, just because I want to live to 95, but brother, I want to feel freaking good when I get there.
Yeah. You want quality of life. You don't want to be
Yeah.
hurting at 95.
Yeah,
Yeah. I get it.
exactly.
Yep.
So bringing all that into your world and what you're training, one of the things I saw on your info sheet that I gave a big amen, hallelujah to was consistency. I think it's what a lot of people lose sight of. Whenever I have my buddies that want to know, it's like, "What are you doing? What are you eating?" I'm like, that's not how I
Mhm.
stay as healthy as I am. It's consistency. It's that James Clear, 1% improvement every day, which is basically just BJ Fogg and tiny habits. It's all tied in, which all comes
Yep.
to just common sense behavioral science. So if you're somebody out there listening and you hear this and you go, well, I want to figure out how to apply some of JB's practices and his systems to find what these two crazy dudes that are having this conversation about quality of life and, animals and, all this, how do they get to a point of discovery of what makes them happy, what really fills their soul, the difference between joy and happiness, and then how do they consistently show up every day with those first principles in mind to compound into something that is, like you mentioned earlier, it's not drudgery. It's I don't want to get the person off the couch either, but the people that figure out this consistency and learn these small habits every day to make it a part of a system, then all of a sudden you remove a lot of the friction. How do you start to get people to take hold of these principles?
Well, I love that question, and I obviously I can speak to it. I'm on 6,024 on my daily show. I think it's been
Awesome,
21
man.
years, so
That's
I don't think
amazing.
many people have done that many shows. So I think it's really morning ritual. Like you got to get up and have something going in the morning. Like I would, funny story, but when I was a drunk buddy is the reason we did morning coach. I was on Alta Vista searching for a name and morning coach was available. So I was like, damn it, I got to become a morning guy. But my biggest blessing and my biggest curse is I have to show up and do it every day. I mean, it's been great. I have to read books. I have to get better. I mean, this is a C&D student that was called a retard, right? So again, going back to when I started on the show, I had to figure it out. Like the only way I could figure it out was to be consistent. Like I didn't have the golden spoon. I didn't have straight A's. Everybody else says, I guess the new top word is privilege. I wasn't privileged. Like I had
I'm
to
still
work
waiting
this
for
stuff.
mine to kick in. Yeah, I hear you.
Yeah, I mean, it was tough, man. So, point being is, I think you got to figure out what it is that you want to achieve. Like for me, my vision. So, I love mission. I love the cascade. Mission is what you're going to do in 12 months. Vision is who you're going to become, and values are what's important. So, mission is something you're going to do. So, for me, I'm going to bring another 800 people in morning coach. That's what I do. That's my coaching system. My vision this year is to be fluent in Spanish, right? So, every day I have to work on Spanish. If I'm not working on that, I'm not moving that vision forward. And the vision I think is critical because it's who you're going to become. So now I'm a Boston Marathon qualified runner. I'm not even a runner, but now I'm elite because I do 40 miles a week. I'm not even a runner, but it became me. You know, I'm a decent golfer, not this year because I haven't played, but I coach some great golfers. But there's if that was my vision, then everything would be guided towards golf. I'd have my coach, I'd be working towards it, and I'd consistently be doing it. Right now it's Spanish. So I want to be able to go to Colombia and do my business in Spanish, which expands my business, expands my market. I mean, it doubles my world. Plus, there's a respect level when I'm at home and in the other country. Like people love it when you can communicate at a high level. So finding the things that you're passionate about and then making them part of what's important and looking at that every day. Mission, vision, values. You know, what are you going to do this year? And it's not a lot of things. Like you shouldn't have a million things. Like that's the problem. You know, if you just do, God, I wish somebody had taught me this when I was 25. If you just do this every year, by the time, 10 years from now, it's unbelievable where you're at. Right. So it's really about isolating, sitting down, doing some reflection. One of the big questions I ask every December, because we plan in December, is what gives you energy and what takes energy?
Mm.
And I've been doing that for 20 years. And so I got a lot of things in my life that give me energy, and I'm getting rid of anything that takes energy. And that includes people, that includes clients. So it's constantly evaluating, is it taking me closer to what I want to do? Is it taking me closer to who I want to be? And then what am I doing consistently? And you mentioned faith. My big one this year has been faith. Like it's unbelievable how great my life has become because my spirituality has grown so much. And that's been a big point of emphasis for me. So it's a consistency. And I'll make a note about that. So what we teach is that any task needs to be developed. Okay. So you build the task. So let's say spirituality. I want to become more spiritual. What does that look like? Well, I'm going to pray the rosary every day, right? Okay, great. That's a consistent act in. Then you measure it consistently. How many days in a row can you do that consistently? Eventually it becomes automatic. You can take it out of your whole list. Like running is not anywhere. It's nowhere in my system because it's autonomous now. So you can do that when you delegate to people. You can do that at yourself. So that's one of the things we teach is at the lower levels of this, the task basis is you have your mission, you have your vision, you have your values, and then you start to track on things consistently until they become autonomous. Now, let's say my running took us, I traveled and I didn't run, then it might come back into my plan because I need to track it again. I need to make it part of my life. So it's really a structured system that we've built to make sure people are staying track with the upper portion, the mission, vision, values, which we call open loops, right? To close loops, which are the tasks that become the consistency that allow you to become who you are.
So do you do any gamification as a part of that? Because like one of the things that I do is like I'm a streak guy. I love streaks,
Yeah.
and it really helps. It's like whenever you like talking about reading the rosary, or whether it's you quiet time, reading the word, whatever it is that somebody
Yeah.
makes up for
Meditation. Yeah.
meditation,
Yeah.
um, and you want to do that, and you want to make it a habit. Like, do you like? I guess it was. I know that what is it? Time, date, and place is really important. So establishing those things, because you mentioned it, it's not as simple as just saying I'm going to do it. It's saying the what you're going to do, when you're going to do it, and then get some sort of a measurable, a quantifiable. I'm going to do this for 5 days, 10 days, 15 days. You know,
Yep.
so do you ever recommend to your students to like to gamify it to like keep the streak and go? Because I know for me, I get a dopamine hit if I'm trying to form that new habit, and
Yeah.
I'm able to put that X on a calendar or some other board. Is that some of the stuff that you'll
I
incorporate?
love it. Yeah, yeah, because willpower is finite, right? So you need something that gets you going. So Yeah, I we do one of 2 things. One, you can track the number, you can mark it on the calendar, or you could do the negative. So I'm not a negative guy, but some of our people do that. Like my Spanish last year was getting really bad. Like I was down to like negative 65 days that I didn't work on it. And that's where I was like, I don't know if I can cuss, but that's I need to get my shit together with my Spanish. Like it was bad, right? So yeah, I love any tool, but here's the thing I will say about tools. Tools are part of the system, whether it's gamification or whatever. Everybody is uniquely different. And that's one of the problems I have in personal development and the medical community too, for the matter of fact. We're all different. We all think different. We all act different. We all have different kind of motivations and energy levels. And I think your system needs to be built for you. We have a lot of people come with the remarkable device, that e-ink device. I don't know if you've seen the
Mhm.
e-ink tablet. We have a ton of people because I work closely with the company. We make planners for them. But the problem is a lot of people will buy that because it's a tool, right? And so they'll complain about the remarkable. It's not doing anything. You know, why isn't this working? Well, because you haven't implemented a system on it. So what you're talking about gamification is a tool to a system, but it needs to be unique to the individual because not everybody is motivated by the same things and not everybody. So it's really important to me that people really discover the foundational pieces and then build their system and their tools or build their tools around the system, not vice versa. So many people buy the tools, whether it's ClickUp or all these damn productivity things. Next thing you know, they're so far into the tool, they're not really even doing anything. The tool's taking over their life. So you need a system before the tool. And then all that other stuff is great. Whatever works with you, you start to apply it individually. You know, we got some group stuff too, but usually individually, you got to find what makes you tick.
Yeah, I agree with that. That's one of the things that I finally it took me a long time to realize, dude, is like I get obsessed, like so many other people, watching other incredibly productive people. Well, a good example is, I'm a writer as well, like you were talking about, and so I watched all the videos on Ryan Holiday's note card system that
Yep.
he uses for writing that he got from Robert Greene, and I think it's fantastic. I tried to implement it and it didn't work for me. It was annoying. I didn't like going back through the book where I dog-eared the pages and writing the note cards, and then I didn't really know about putting the note cards based on book or topic. I don't know, it just didn't work for me. But I realized there's something I need to do to read a book, capture the information, and have it available for later on. So now what I do is I read a book, and at the end of every chapter, I have one of the little black, like moleskin journals, and I
Yeah.
write down chapter 12. These were my major takeaways, and boom, that's it. And so I love that idea of you know what you want to do. And I saw this in the write up that your folks gave me. Is like you've got the tools there, just use your tools to implement for your purpose. And I have learned that the hard way. I tried for so many years to take other people's things that they were doing and use it for myself, and it would never stick because it wasn't cognitively how my brain worked.
Yep.
Now, one of the things I do want to talk about because you one of the things I know is big for in your work is like waking up with purpose. And that's I mean, to me, people that have trouble getting out of bed in the morning, there's at least in my personal anecdotal experience, if I have a really strong why to get up and get rolling in the morning, whether it's a project I'm looking forward to working on, this podcast, knowing that I've got podcast interviews lined up, whatever the case may be, it totally changes my cadence. And of course, I have a morning routine. Uh, but how do you coach people to start waking up with purpose, intention, and ready to get out of the bed and hit the day running and tie that into the do it now principle. Because there's some of these people right now that are listening to this, they know what they need to do now. They just keep putting it off. How do you get them
Yeah.
over that hump to get out of bed with purpose and then take that do it now attitude and go find those things and freaking get them done? How do you start to do that?
Well, and again, this is cognitive load issues. So I'll take myself. I'm a charger. Like I would, in fact, my Spanish I was doing Pimsleur in the morning. But here's the issue: like the morning is so critical because what happens is we only have willpower is finite, cognitive load, and mental capacity is finite. Like we only have so much of that, right? So the problem I see with a lot of people is if they aren't that type A person that can jump out of bed and do stuff, they start beating themselves up. So for me, I have to go for a walk to reduce cortisol. So like it's weird. Like I'm this really I can't do anything the first thing in the morning. I actually need time to get myself kind of centered. not start thinking about all the problems and business stuff that I've had. Like, it's really important for me because if I skip that step, I go right into zone one thinking. I go to fight or flight, and it really disrupts everything. So for me, my non-negotiable is to journal a little bit and slow down. But that's me. Like, some people can get up and get going. So again, stepping back, it's really understanding who you are. I think the problem why people don't move forward is because they don't, their willpower's wore out and their cognitive load is wore out. They just got too much going on. And you got to start to get rid of the stuff. You got to clear the noise because you can only handle so much. I don't care if you're Einstein. There's only so much there. And what happens is, and what we're seeing is decision fatigue is worse than it's ever been. So even from a marketing perspective, like getting people to join Morning Coach, I'm trying to make it so easy because people just don't want to make a decision. Hell, I don't. My wife, what do you want to eat tonight? We get in a fight because we're both so tired of making decisions all day long. So really what it all comes back to, whether it's the morning, the afternoon, is really understanding your cognitive abilities and starting to figure out how can I simplify these processes so when I have that thing I need to do that needs to be consistent, I have the energy and the ability to do it. And I'm in system two thinking, not system one. I'm not blowing stuff off. And what happens is this is just a horrible kind of pattern. What happens is it just keeps loading up. The to-do list becomes 20, becomes 60, becomes 80. And it's just like you're just blown out until you just burn out. So it's really about managing cognitive load. I don't think it's the rah rah, get up, make your bed, win the day thing. Like, I love that stuff, but I really think this is non motivational. Where I'm at now in my life with the students and the people I'm working with, there's enough stuff out there. There's so much motivational stuff. You know, we got the army guys that are great. There's so much It's not even about motivation anymore. It's literally there's so much information. There's so much stuff. How do we limit your cognitive load so that you can make proper decisions and you can execute when you need to execute? That's what this is all about. So if you wake up, you get the right perspective. That means you got to slow down and realize I don't need to do all this shit today. Like, I don't need to. The world's not going to collapse. And it all starts there, right? It all starts with losing the panic so we can get the cortisol levels down and we can get brain function where it needs to function. Otherwise, you're just an executive function. You're just freaking out. By the end of the day, you seem like you ran 30 miles and you got nothing done. I see it with so many people. That's cognitive issues. That has nothing to do with motivation or somebody that's a driver or anything else. They're just burning themselves out. And you know what happens is so many people get on coffee, man. They just start drinking caffeine or Celsiuses like nonstop, trying to get through that. And what you're doing is you're borrowing from tomorrow for today. Like, I like my caffeine, don't get me wrong, but you got to be careful. You're borrowing from tomorrow for today to try to get you through because you aren't managing your mind and your systems appropriately. That's really what's going on. So yes, it's about the morning, but it's more about getting your day started cognitively right than it is like motivational or jumping up and doing rah-rah stuff.
Man, I don't disagree with anything you just said. In fact, nothing pleases me more these days than a calendar that has very little on it, where I know
Yep.
I'm gonna be able to pop some really good quality thinking in. That's why, again, going back to I started listening to, Cal Newport's podcast again. Um,
Deep work. Yeah. Good stuff.
I'm gonna read Deep Work, um, and I'm trying to one of the things you'll notice about my show is that, I refuse to go all in on social media. Now I could get a team to put a lot of stuff out there, and it's almost like, how do you have a successful podcast and not have a big social media presence? I've been very fortunate in that I started this podcast long enough to where I get the downloads without it. I know it would blow up if that were the real goal, if I really went all in on social media, but I just freaking hate it. I don't, and I know,
Yeah.
and
The distraction.
yeah, and it feels like, and here's one of the things you mentioned, like the army guys and the rah rah stuff. I was just having this conversation, or maybe I was listening to, I think Rhonda Patrick was talking to Arthur Brooks about his new book that just came out. And either they were talking about it or I was having the conversation with somebody else about how one of the problems that we face in this kind of this motivation culture is that so many people will watch a David Goggins 30-second clip on Instagram and think that that was enough. I mean,
Yep.
Goggins is out there in probably 100-degree heat. He's been running for 30 miles or whatever and decides to tell his guy, "Hey, meet me here and we're gonna do a video." He's done the work. The unfortunate thing about social media is that it it makes you feel like you've done the thing without having to do the thing, and you mentioned it earlier, and this is one of the things that Arthur Brooks was talking about, all the research that's coming in on AI and Instagram and all these things because I'm with you. I use several different, I mean, a multitude of AI tools, but I'm also trying to make sure that I don't stop thinking. I put actually on my like I have like my proverbial to-do list, but then under it I have my daily goals, and one of them is like 30 minutes think to just try to make myself sit and just think about a problem, several things, not about have I got this done, but just literally just to stop and think, which is so freaking hard. And folks, if you're listening to this and you've never done it, just try to sit down for 10 minutes with the only goal to be to think, solve a problem in your mind. It's dude, it's killer. And so I love the fact that you're saying that a lot of it starts with just that cognitive load kind of management of how to attack the day. And I guess so I mean you've kind of filled in some of the answers, but I would love to know, and again, audience, this isn't what you should go do with your day, but what does your day look like, JB? Like, take us through kind of and pop in here how whatever your modality you're using or whatever the system is, how you developed the routine of this is when I get up, this is what I do. Kind of what does a day in the life look like for you at this point?
I appreciate it. Well, and I'm not here to sell anything. I'm not a sales guy,
Sure.
right? But I started Morning Coach for me. Like I needed a consistent system that I could come. So I listen. I listen to my own show. It's 15 minutes. That's what I do. And I built software that I go into called the Companion, which uses I always say the name on Claude. I'm going to say Claude back end to kind of look at all my goals and projects. So I built a complier system for me, right? And now I'm getting other people to use it. But yeah, the day is to wake up and really go out for a walk with my dog, come back. I fast. So I go for a run, 6 miles minimum, right? Is typical. Then I work out. Health is so important to me. Coming on 57, I wear a Whoop. I wear a Aura. I'm a nerd. I'm big. I put that information into my AI. I don't allow it to think for me. I use it for data analysis. Hey, what should I run today? What should I eat today? So I'm really into that. And that's where I want to have the energy to be able to do what I need to do, which is serve my clients. And that's why I quit drinking. I don't drink caffeine hardly ever. There's things that I can't do because I have people that depend on me. And so then I show up and I do, I get in Morning Coach. So what happened with, I just want to sidebar to this because it's important with Morning Coach is really interesting because our system's about action. So one of the big issues that we have in my world is like, there's a lot of great coaches like Dan Sullivan, strategic coach. It costs 15, $20,000 to go there for a weekend. So I charge $100 a month or $200 a month with our software, right? So I'm in a very low rate for a person. It's very low. The problem is what you just talked about is somebody will come to Morning Coach, they want to get organized and get going, and they'll buy our product. And then they won't do anything because the problem's gone. And it drives me nuts. I'm the actual opposite. I don't want anybody the reason I keep the rates low is because if somebody spent $8,000 for coaching, I'd rather them work 80 months, right? With me. That's why I built my systems. And so it's really hard for me because my whole objective is to help people with cognitive load and to take action. And the thing that has helped me as a C&D student, a kid that was called a retard, is I have done more Forrest Gump stuff in my life, which I've just taken action, learned from it, analyzed it, and just got better. And so you say, what does my day look like? A lot of it's stumbling and bumbling and making mistakes and learning about it. I have learned to not try to be perfect. Today, for example, I'm doing the audiobook. So I'm doing it myself. I wrote for Hay House 10 years ago. They gave me a bunch of money. My new book, Get It Done Now, that's a book that I wrote because it's not about the money. I'm excited about it, right? So I'm doing the audiobook myself. I'm doing everything myself, like an Amazon. I mean, I got a team, but I'm not working with my publisher. And so today it's like, okay, clear everything. You're going to sit in the studio and do your audiobook today. So before we got on, that's what I'm doing. So it's like, I have so much to do. I need a new landing page. I have to do new videos. I got to get an SaaS editor for our videos. Like there's so much. And I just cleared it. So how does a day look? It wakes up and manage cognitive load. And then at 5 to 6 o'clock, it's sweatpants time. Like it's like shut it off, turn the computer off. This is pretty new for me, but it's really important. It's just saving my life. Like literally at 5, 6 o'clock, it's done. I have staff in the Philippines. I have Japan. I have a lot of people all over the world. We're international. We have a lot of people all over the world. I shut it down. I'm done, guys. You got anything for me? Get it to in the morning. So it's sweatpants on. So it's actually the opposite of what you would think. Like you'd think I'm driving so hard all the time that I'm eliminating stuff. I'm loving life and working. And you know what? I'm having more success than I ever had by getting rid of so much stuff and just focusing on the most important tasks of the day. So get up, go for a walk, relax, slow it down, get in system two thinking. What's really important, I use my software, which helps me. Okay, these are a couple things you need to do. Okay, get rid of everything else. Let's just focus on these things. Let's be quality. Let's make sure it's great. And then stumble and bumble, make some mistakes, shut it down in the afternoon and watch horror movies or do something fun. So it's not what you would think, probably.
No, it's actually it's kinda what I've developed. In fact, I just read that that's what kinda like how Jeff Bezos starts his day is it's just like it's kinda and I do that. The first, like, I'd say, first 30 to 45 minutes of my day is going to be just kind of get going, read I've really since I've really gotten away from social media, I'll read Apple News. I'll go find it my curated reads from my News Plus. Usually it's magazine articles I try to read. And it's and I used to be so I mean, I used to have this, like, hour and a half morning routine of multiple journals, breath work, all these different things that I mean, it was massive, and it was good, it was fine, but now I'm until about, you know, 5:30 to 7, that's just kind of blank space to do whatever I want, and I try to it gets into it, and I'm sure you've seen this, it becomes a routine, but it's not like this, "Well, I'm doing this because I'm checking this box." That's just kind of the natural flow of the morning. Then I go into my I do the ice bath and then train, go for a morning walk, then I come
Yep.
back and train and do all the different things. Um, and I have found that by taking that deliberately slower pace, I guess you can call it that, and fighting against the machine of that word that everybody, it seems like in America, loves, which is busy. "You've been busy?" They just actually I don't even know what the hell you do. "You been busy?
Yeah.
You busy?" And I always tell people, "As busy as I wanna be." If to me, if
Yep.
you're doing life right, I'm as busy as I wanna be, and I try really hard to not be really, really busy because that's when things tend to overheat. And so, no, it doesn't surprise me, man, and it does and I think it's refreshing. I think it's one of those things that we just don't it we have all this white space, especially in today's day and age. People are almost like I think people are fearful of the white space that we have, where there's just you have these massive periods throughout the day, 2 hours or whatever, where we try to find something to fill it because we don't understand the power of being bored, doing nothing, just thinking, reading is work, whatever the case may be. And so I love that. Now I do want to learn a little bit more about the software, how it works. Like if I log on in the morning and what am I tracking? What am I doing? What's the interaction look like? What am I solving for? Kind of take us through what that kind of looks like.
It's fine. We're just launching it, so it's great. We've been working on it. We have a beta group, 21 of our members, and now we're launching it. And it's actually really interesting because I love AI, but I hate AI. So it's one of those things that I got to make. You know what I mean? It's a love hate relationship. And but what we did is we took the Get It Done Now process, my books, and we built a software system around it. So it helps you analyze your mission and vision, make sure those are clear, right? And then it helps you get, your values. So we got a dream board, so you can look at everything there. And then it analyzes like what you do is you put all your goals and projects and tasks in there, and then it'll look at it and say, okay, these are the things you're going to do. It also has a weekly review and it also has a monthly review. So it's constantly looking at what's happening with you and helping you adjust and go. But even more importantly, with that is we also have our community, which is just these wonderful professionals that work together and talk. So there's people that are there's the human aspect of it, but we have the software aspect of it. That's been my dream. Like this is my dream to build a complete system. Like I told you, I come from Jack Welch. So I believe we've built one of the best systems. I have a belt system too that people progress through for mastery over 18 months. So it's just really about helping people get clear. And the problem is with like general AI, like ChatGPT, Claude, and the rest of you put this stuff in there. You could put my book in there and say, give me a plan. But you need to have it trained and you need to work with it. It needs you can't have so much stuff. So, for example, ours is like the daily focus. You press a button, it says, these are the three things you really should be working on today as it learns more about you and works with you over time. So, it's actually really cool. I'm excited about it. I'm excited about it. And like I said, we're keeping things affordable. Like my complete program is $200 a month. And the reason I bring that up is because I'm just not somebody who wants to charge thousands and thousands of dollars. Yes, that's money, but we're a member driven system. And this is for you in business. You would appreciate this. I don't have advertisers. I don't have sponsors. I don't have investors. This is all membership driven. And I have never sold my I could grow this so big by going and getting money, but we're going with the members and we're supporting it and we're building it that way. So it's a lot of fun. So the software is actually member driven. So we actually put the money back in, and that's what the business has been built around. So those values are important to me, but it's a hell of a system. I absolutely love it, and we've worked so hard on it. And everything we've done has been really about our people. And I think the most pride I take in is the people we've put together. Even my assistants goes, a lot of times they'll say, "Where do you get these great people?" And I'm like, I don't know, but they're awesome. So it's been a wonderful journey. But the software we're launching, I've been using it. We have 20 people using it. It's really awesome. And we're always like the other thing, and I think this is important just because I'm not, again, I hate sales, I hate marketing, but we're not contractual people. Like I build everything based on authenticity and reality. And if it doesn't work for somebody, it's not going to. We're totally cool. Like this is not a committed thing. So I think when you're working, and this is important as part of this dialogue, when people are looking to work with consultants and coaches and stuff, they need to look at the person and what they really are doing. And those people should be they should open their life up, right? So people can look under the hood and see how they really live in this stuff. And I think that's what I'm really proud of. I really love the system, and it's got a long. We're going to build it even better. Like I'm excited about what it's going to become, but right now it's pretty cool.
Do you think that the biggest, value add for the person that is using the software is figuring out what to get done, or is it helping them figure out what to not focus on? I mean, because again, going back to where that
Yeah.
started, 'cause that to me, man, that is one of the biggest challenges.
Yeah. It's reducing cognitive load.
Okay,
I mean, that's the bottom line. How do we reduce cognitive load so you have the ability to jump into system two and really use your brain when you need to use it?
yeah.
And that's what it's about. Like, how do we eliminate stuff? And I would say it's more on elimination than it is on adding stuff because again, we're not looking for the person that's getting off the sofa. Again, there's a little bit of a price there so that people, you're not going to get the guy off the sofa to spend $200 a month, but you're going to get a high performing professional, right? So it's more about really saying no because most performing professionals have just way too much going on. I mean, we're working on. We also do the planner for the Remarkable. And we had a meeting because a lot of people are going, "Well, I need more space. I need more planning stuff. I need more stuff." And I'm like, "Okay, I don't know if this is good or bad. Let's get together. Maybe we'll build you guys a new planner, but you might have too much going on. Like maybe you need to isolate some things." So we get together a lot as a community to try to figure it out. But what it really is all comes down to is lifestyle and reducing cognitive load. That's what it is. Because I believe true success is peace. So if you can find that peace, you're gonna perform. Like things are going to work. And even if they don't, you're gonna take them as learning experiences and get better. That's why my stuff works. That's what I'm saying. I'm not the straight A student. This is not Einsteinian level thinking. This is consistency and structure that actually works if you just do it because you're going to optimize. You're going to learn from your failures. You're going to learn. You're going to start to reduce cognitive load, and you're going to get there eventually. There's no way you can fail. And that's the thing. Maybe financially, if you're like, I'm going to be a billionaire by launching this product, well, you might fail at that. But you as a person are going to grow because you're working on yourself. And to me, that's more important.
Do you think that some of the tools that you've built, are they tapping into kind of and I guess this kind of goes back to what I was talking about, the gamification, which gamification comes from strategic dopamine hits or whatever.
Yes.
Have you helped people? I would think that I totally understand the cognitive load reduction. That to me just makes sense. It just makes it easier when you realize a lot of the crap that you had swimming around your head that was burdening you from not wanting to do anything didn't need to be there in the first place. And all that's left is the primary task. And that makes it look a lot easier when, oh, that's all I really have to get done right now. Then you can do it. Now, I get all that. But are you also tying some things into this that kind of work along with the neurochemistry of time of day or something like that? And maybe you are, maybe not. I'm just wondering as far as the neuroscience of.
Yeah, certainly, yeah, and I'm doing it every day, right? So, for example, like we celebrate stuff. Like John, one of my guys in a consultant in Japan, right? He was learning how to play guitar 2 years ago.
Yeah,
Well, he did his first thing at a worship service live and in person. To me, that was the greatest thing I've ever seen. Like, and he posted his picture up there with. So it was just like, yeah, that's the we want to get that dopamine hit
yeah,
of community, right?
love
So
it.
the software is one thing and it's great, but it's also people celebrating your wins around the world make a big difference. I mean, I just had somebody, Will, his mother passed away, and he's in the system, and he's like, "Hey, the system held. I'm going through a really hard time." Well, when you have 20 people going, "Will, we're with you, brother. You know, thank you for sharing. It's great to see the system holds even in the time of trouble." That's the type of stuff that you want. And I have to be very careful, right? Keeping the community secure. That's why I'm very cautious about, as we grow who comes in, but it's really important that that is a big part of it. Dopamine, community. I think there's a couple things that AI can never do, right? One is experiences. AI can never change the experience. The second thing is human connection. So big parts of morning coaches, yeah, we're using that, but we want to provide experiences and we want to create human connection because that's stuff that'll never go away. And I have people that have been together like 20 years, and that's what I'm proud of because it's those are the things that I'm not ever worried about my business shifting to because they can't do that. And they can't replicate me. I show up every day, 365 days of the year. I'm there to making sure that person that's trying to quit drinking, if that's what they're trying to do. I got a book coming out called Sober Weekends, helping professionals eliminate alcohol. But let's say, somebody's there. I'm going to be there on Sunday because maybe you're trying to quit drinking and you need somebody there. Everybody's dealing with something different. I don't care how successful you are, right? And again, I think success is peace. So my job is to create systems and tools to help people find peace so they can be there for their family, they can be there for their loved ones, and they can kill it in life. It's that simple. And I'm doing a pretty good job at that. I've got a great my wife's Colombian, we travel. I mean, I've really and I hate that stuff. Like I hate the narcissistic ego bullshit, the Ferrari stuff. You see it out there every day. But I think you have to talk about it too. You know what I mean? Like I'm building a freaking. I'm in my. I'm downstairs in my studio, the best house in LaPorte, Indiana. I came back to be with my mother, who was going through kidney cancer. We got the kidney out, which was great. But she was at the marathon that I qualified for Boston. I'm crying. She's crying. She's 80 years old. I'm 56 last year. It looks like I'm a 12-year-old, and she's a what I mean. Back when she was 21, as single mother. Those are the things you just can't duplicate. And that's how I live my life. Like I want to have those experiences. You're going through it, your wedding, the things with your children. Like we gotta stop this grind. And I sorry to get on my soapbox here. Spend time with your family, build things with your loved ones, man. It's life is too short. And I just love it, whether it's John playing guitar, Will going through his issues with his wife. Karina, we have a Karina who exited her business. She's 70 something now, and Karina just did a runway. They asked her to model, and she came in. And I was so scared, and I did a runway. To me, that's living. All the money and stuff comes and goes, but you can never take away those experiences. So that's the premise of everything that I do.
I love it, man, and that's exactly I mean, my wife and I, we talk about it all the time. We like yesterday, we probably spent, gosh, 4 hours in our backyard just, just talking, doing nothing, planning, she's basically become a quasi wedding planner, getting ready for Ryland's wedding, and, it's we've learned that just enjoying the company of each other and the small things, when you do that, when you focus on, experiences, and then all of a sudden, you realize that all the other stuff is kinda counterfeit. It's like a sugar high, and it just and I mean, I don't know about you, but I went through this phase for a while where there were things that I would cognitively say, "I know I'm supposed to want that, but I don't." I mean,
Yeah.
again, it's kinda cliche at this point, but, the Matrix says I'm supposed to desire that thing, but I just don't. I don't want I mean, like, whenever, I bought this house before Jimmy and I got married that I was mentioned to you earlier, and I always with the intent that when the girls go off to college, then I was gonna go back to my hometown of Sulphur Springs and live in an Airstream on some of our family land and just kinda hang out, with my dad for the rest of my life. I was never gonna marry again. I was only gonna do that. And then Jimlin comes along, and we're in this smaller house. All of our friends, they have these big houses and stuff, and God bless them. There's nothing wrong with that. But I'm just like, I know we're supposed to want that, but we don't. We would rather be able to just lock the door and pop smoke to Europe at a moment's notice, and to your point, have some experiences with each other, living life, writing our own story. And so everything, if the software, the program, the life planning, all of it, if it kind of helps more people get toward that, and again, I'm like you, not in a judgmental way. I don't, turn my nose up to somebody rolling up in a Bentley or something like that. It's not my desire, and I don't fault them for it. But if more people can understand that trying to chase that false sense of whatever, man, it's just so much more fulfilling when you dig into your soul and find true joy. And if your programs help with that, brother, I'm here for it. I love it.
Yeah, that's what it's about. I mean, it's just good energy. We need it in the world. There's a lot of people living in Thoreau's quiet desperation. And as Blaise Pascal says, all man's misery derives from not being able to sit in a room alone. It's all mental. I have a really good client that I'm working with right now who's building $100 million company. She's young. She's a Russian designer. And she said, JB, I didn't realize how much entrepreneurship is mental. I
Mm,
said, it's all mental. It's everything that's going on in your head, and she has grown so much in the last year. It's been wonderful because she's getting out of her head, right?
yeah.
She's experienced, she's becoming present, she's making deals, she's flowing, and she's just growing every day. And success is not always the wins, man. Success sometimes is the losses and the failures along the way.
Where you learn.
And yeah, enjoy the process,
Yeah.
you know? So I just show up every day. Morning coach has been around a long time, 21 years. I started showing up and I show up every day. And my mentor, Wayne Dyer, who I get to share the stage with,
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
love Wayne.
Yeah.
He told me I just show up when God tells me to show up. And that's what I do. I'm awesome to be on the show. And God wanted me to be here. And that's what I do. I always say I'm the messenger, not the message. And that's really important to me that in my field specifically, as you know, speakers and stuff, it tends to be kind of an egoic, narcissistic world. And it's really stunning my growth because marketing has been something I haven't done. And now it's time. I need to get out there a little bit more. We got something great here, and I'm starting to do more of that.
Well, JB, I am so glad that our paths crossed. Like I said, it's a selfish endeavor. This podcast that, like I said, is going on 8 years, and to be able to get to interact with people like you, to meet you now, to befriend you, and please, man, I mean, any way my platform can support what you're doing. I'm a big believer in iron sharpening iron, and so always reach out and what have we not covered, dude? We just crushed an hour like it was nothing. You know, what else do we need to hit? How do people follow you and find out? And when do you get through the beta? I guess you're still at the beta stage of the software.
Yeah, we're launching. So yeah, we'll be up there. Morning coach, just come over morning coach. But I just want to leave. I think it's important people have a little bit of self care and a little self love. I just want to mention that. I've beat myself up, for the majority of my life, and it just really didn't. It wasn't healthy. And I just, you got to love yourself, man. You got to believe in yourself and go forward. And yeah, and you can find me at Morning Coach. It's really simple. Morningcoach.com is my baby, my platform. That's where we live. And yeah, software is launching. New book, Get It Done Now. It's doing really good on Amazon. That's a fun book. It's my whole system put together. I'm going in the studio to do the audio. That should be up any minute now. Those are some things people can look for.
Awesome. JB, man, this was a blast. Thanks so much for joining us. Folks, he is JB Glossinger. I'm Jason. We're out. Well, that does it for this episode of The Jason Wright Show. Thank you so much for listening. This has been a Texas Titan Media production. Fourth Wall did the music. And as always, thank you so much for listening. Please consider going out to jasonwrightnow.com and signing up for the Vitruvian letter. Also, please go out to iTunes. It takes like 30 seconds to just leave us a 5-star rating. It does wonders for the podcast. I would be so grateful. And with that, until we meet again, go crush it and endeavor to improve always in all ways. I'm out.